So I decided to go ahead and take this security piece into introducing how extraterrestrials actually play a part in our economy. And don't chalk this off as crazy. Don't chalk this off as weird before you do any of that. Make sure you do your research, of course, and find out what's out there on extraterrestrials. And then in addition to that, make sure that you research everything that I'm speaking on. You know what I'm saying? Before you jump the gun. But we got a lot of listeners that have been with us for years. So, I mean, most people know the deal. So, what happened is that I'm going to go ahead and start with Roswell. And I'm going to start with Roswell because this is not necessarily where it all began with the internet and how the extraterrestrials married the internet. But, or however, Roswell is very important in understanding that crash because this is where a lot of the reverse engineering took place as far as back engineering extraterrestrial technology so that humans on the surface now, we talking about humans on the surface because there's two types of humans. Humans that live on the surface, then you got some humans that have gained access to this underworld that I've been speaking on. So what happened is that they begin to do back engineering and they begin to biologically research a lot of the extraterrestrials that died, that came here. There were a lot of extraterrestrials that crashed out in Colorado and they passed. They're deceased and they died, right? And they were able to go into their biology and they started to do DNA experiments. And in these DNA experiments, this eventually led to a lot of your internet. So when you start talking about dark currency, when you start talking about the connection to how the internet is powered, what people don't realize is that the internet is powered by bodies of people, right? Or bodies of beings even. So when you talk about the internet, it's not just equipment or robots. There is a living aspect to the internet that connects us to not only to Belzoni's chamber here on Earth, but then to the main Belzoni chamber because you can design your own, of course, and connect to the main portal. But I'll speak on that all in a minute, or in a couple videos coming. But before you can understand that, you have to realize that the internet is connected biologically. There were DNA contributions, blood contributions that were basically injected into the internet and into the fiber optics and all of this 5G technology and all that. You have to realize that there's DNA that's collected, that was collected by extraterrestrials and beings and scientists that were part of this experiment to design this internet that we now partake in, right? So there are rituals. We start talking about people getting rich off the internet and stuff like that, and a lot of negative stuff happening to them. Like you hear about people making all this money off the internet, and next thing you know, people showing up at their house and doing this and that. These are internet rituals that are taking place because people, they owe sacrifice, blood. Because you're using, when you send and use money on the internet, you're using DNA to do that. Why? Because there had to be some type of extraterrestrial or some being that contributed their blood or their DNA to the fiber optics or the energy aspect, or even some of the components that in Silicon Valley you have certain components and the equipment out there, and people don't realize that there's DNA that was contributed and turned into computer type technology. So they would take a sample of your DNA and do a reading on you as a person and then turn this into a technology. And a lot of your programs are actually people. So a lot of your software programs and stuff like that that you see were designed off of people. So it gets deep. So Roswell was important because when that craft crashed there, the equipment on that craft was a connection to the internet that would connect us to outer space. So the military started using the internet, and they called it BankNet, to start transferring money and start trading on stocks and things like that with other beings from other star constellations, beings on Earth. So the internet's been out. This version of the internet, actually the internet came out in the 1800s, believe it or not. But this version of the internet that we use has been out since the 40s. So don't let them fool you and think that the computers just came out in the 70s and all, IBM and all of that. These are all people. These companies were named after people and different extraterrestrial beings that contributed their DNA to the internet. So what you have to do is that you would have to learn how to pay homage, essentially, and give back. And there's a way to do it. You have to learn to give back so that you don't fall victim to the sacrifice for those people that's going to start making money offline, which is really going to be everybody, because eventually they're going to get rid of cash. Because there's a story behind cash. They don't control that either. So when you start talking about receiving money and paper, those ethers are governed by very dark extraterrestrials, dark matter beings. You have to learn how to protect your third eye from dark matter beings. Because there's these beings that I'm talking about, they're invisible. There are beings that exist, they're dark matter beings, and they're invisible. You can't see them. And they live in the invisible part of the light spectrum. We only live in like 7%, right? So there's a 93% light spectrum we can't see, and these dark matter beings live in this aspect. And they're connected to the dark currency and the trading. They see units, right? Kind of like the Predator saw energies. They see units, and they're connected to the dark matter aspect of the dark currency and a lot of the Ethereum metals that are being exchanged in the Ethereum currency. This is all controlled by extraterrestrials. So I'm going to talk about more. I'm going to go ahead and shut down for now. I'll make it more real for you. But as always, stay vigilant, stay wise. Namaste.